new German citizen rule demands recognition of Israel's right to exist. Germany has introduced significant changes to its citizenship laws, including a controversial new requirement for naturalization applicants to affirm Israel's right to exist. This measure comes as part of a broader effort to combat rising anti Semitism and far right sentiments in the country. The reforms also make it easier for well integrated immigrants to obtain German citizenship, allowing dual citizenship now and reducing the residency requirement from 8 years to 5 years. Interior Minister Nancy Faeser emphasized the government's stance, stating, quote, whoever shares our values and makes an effort can now get a German passport more quickly and are not required to give up a part of their identity with the former citizenship. However, she also drew a firm line against intolerance, adding, quote, anti Semitism, racism, and other forms of contempt for humanity rule out naturalization. There is no tolerance for that. These changes have sparked debate in Germany, particularly in light of the ongoing Israel Hamas conflict and Germany's unwavering support for Israel. So, this was of particular interest to me because I this is something that Armin was already proposing as a criteria for citizenship, basically across Europe and in the United States and Canada, etc. And I had some pushback to that, just in the sense and like I don't even know to what extent that's allowed under the law. Armin was just putting that out there as this is something that should be a thing hypothetically. I don't know, maybe they're listening to Atheist Republic because then it came forward and actually happened. I didn't think this was a real thing.
Yes.
I was
Yes,
like, "There's
yes.
no
We
way they
suggested
can
it
do that."
here before they did it in Germany. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Once again, okay, everyone drop a little Mufti Armin in the chat. Well, not Mufti, like, we need a maybe guru, I
Political
don't know.
advisor.
You no, you're no a prophet, Armin, because you predicted it. You can now claim prophethood because this is a
Oh,
prediction. It happened.
yeah.
Um, and so I like I said, I was wrong. Armin was right. Apparently, this is a real thing, and it really did happen. Now, at the same time, Germany is considering pushing forward a law that would allow deportation for supporting voicing support for terrorist groups, even if only through online means. And this is questionable because of this is going to have to see how that plays out in the courts because of free speech laws and stuff. Um so we'll see how that happens. But in general, so I was reading an article about how Olaf Scholz has really changed his tune on immigration. So basically, you know, Olaf Scholz has been historically defended many of the immigration policies of Germany. And now he's coming forward and saying things like this. It, quote, it outrages me when someone who has found protection here commits the most serious of crimes. Such criminals should be deported, even if they come from Syria or Afghanistan. Now, that's a bold statement because Germany is not allowed to deport people back to countries that they deem as not safe. They deem Afghanistan and Syria as not safe. So he's saying, no, 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 no. Fuck all that. We should send them back anyways. Um, and read a really interesting article about kind of the attitudes in Germany over this kinds of things nowadays. And what pissed me off so much was that in the Politico article, it had a subheading called Germans fret over a rise in crime. Like they fret over it as if it's just an unsubstantiated fear. They're fretting over it. It's like they have this anxiety for no reason. Because technically Germany is still one of the safest countries in the world. But then later in the article, they break down what the rise in crime has actually been, and it is shocking For example, the number of violent incidents involving a knife rose by nearly 40% between 2021 and 2023, hitting 14,000. Then there was another statistic that blew my mind. Um, where was it? The number of criminal acts in Germany rose by about 6% last year compared to 2022, with authorities attributing the increase to high levels of migration. While foreigners make up about 15% of Germany's population, they accounted for 41% of all crimes in 2023.
Wow.
Crime crime that authorities attributed to foreign suspects rose by 23% in 2022 and 18% in 2023, according to government statistics. And so basically, the interior minister is saying we are pushing the boundaries of our capacity for integration. Um, she had another really here was a firm quote from the interior minister. Um, After there was that incident where the Afghan nationals stabbed to death that police officer who was at the event that was anti-Islam. We talked about it on the show. You know, that event where all of a sudden the police started trying to detain the guy who was the victim. Do you remember that incident, Armin?
Mm,
There was like anti-Islam kind of little protest thing. Afghan
yes,
national
yes,
comes
yes,
with a
yes.
knife, starts attacking people. The police arrive. They
Yes.
start going after the people that were the victims,
Yeah,
and then
that has turned into a meme. Everybody is like
yeah,
turning that into, it has become a meme template, unfortunately, for that cop who died. But yeah.
and then while the cop is trying to wrestle the victim to the ground, the guy comes around to the and just stabs him in the back of the neck. Right. Well, after
Yeah.
that happened, there were tons of Islamists celebrating that attack online. Well, the German public didn't take too kindly to that. And the interior minister said Islamist agitators are stuck in a stone age that do not belong in our country.
Wow.
I was like, damn, I'm not used
Jeez.
to hearing you guys
Wow.
talk like this. Like, um, and so this is kind of some of the things going on in the background. Um, but Armin, you know, please take it away. I know you probably have a ton of opinions about this.
Yeah, and I think this is just the beginning. This should not be enough. There should be a whole set of values that they are checked for. And it also, I mean, they could obviously lie. Um, but if they are lying and they is proven that they were lying after, I think their citizenship should be challenged because it could show that they were lying on their citizenship application. And also, even though this could be a lie, it's just a first step. It's just a normalization for more value tests, because if you have this just opens the door. Like, people are like, oh, this is not going to work because obviously I can lie. First of all, this is something that many Muslims would not feel comfortable even lying about. And also, this is going to be something that already will stop many people, Muslims, because this is such a big taboo that it will already filter a lot of Muslims out, a lot of the most radical ones, right? But you can, I mean, they could lie, they could do taqiyya, they could like say, like, you know what, I'm going to go into this country, and then after that I could do whatever I want against Israel, after I get my citizenship. Yeah, but this is just opens the door to a whole bunch of other filters that we want. If you normalize talking about this, because these are standards that people did not agree with, consider too much before. But if it's normalized by a country like Germany, now we have our foot in to now come and add a whole bunch of other filters to it. One thing I want to normalize is, other than supporting Israel, it should be required that they support LGBT rights, that they're anti many things that you find in Sharia. They promote freedom of speech, including blasphemy. I think it should be specified that they should say that they agree that it's everyone's right to insult Prophet Muhammad. Like, that's where I wanted to take. I want somebody that is coming to this country, that they have to recognize that insulting Prophet Muhammad is part of freedom of speech of this country. They have to agree with that. But again,
Specifically Prophet
if
Muhammad and not all religious figures? You want to be specified by
specific,
name.
no, they want to say everything, but with the example of Prophet Muhammad. So everything is free speech, but specifically as an example, they have to mention Prophet Muhammad as an example. I mean, that's already normalized because, for example, in Canada, where you recognize that female genital mutilation is a crime, you have to recognize that as part of your citizenship process. So they already have normalized giving specific examples, you know. And I do think like we have, if you have lied in your citizenship application, we have already precedent that your citizenship, if you lied about something, your citizenship should be able to be stripped away from you and taken away from you because it was all based on something that was not true, right? So if you come and say that I recognize Israel's right to exist and eventually become do something, take parts in protests, support Hamas, say from chant from the river to the sea, participate in any activities that challenges Israel's right to exist, that should eventually be recognized as you somebody who lied on their application, somebody who does not, because I think the citizenship, people who are not born in that country as citizens, I think their citizenship should be conditional. So this is a problem because some people must think that this is a two-tier citizenship. People who could have their citizenship could not be taken away from them, and people who with citizenship that can be taken away from them. But again, I used to agree. I used to think that this should not happen. But at the end of the day, if you are giving citizenship to people based on the condition that you have a certain set of values, if those certain set of values are not there, then that citizenship should be able to be taken away from them. I think that is. I mean, given what we're saying, I think this seems extreme, but I think we are in an extreme situation. So that's the only way that this eventually becomes meaningful because obviously people can lie on their application. But this is a great first step. This is a great first step. And also, this is not a violation of freedom of speech because people think like, oh, so you're thought policing people, so people can't have certain views. Yeah, people can't have certain views. Um, you do not owe people the right to freedom of expression if they're not a citizen of your country. When it comes to rights and freedoms, the rights and freedoms that your country has to give to people is based on their citizenship, is based on you are a citizen after you become a citizen. So if you are not a citizen, then I can treat you differently. In the same way, for example, if I'm a Canadian citizen, I have the right to access the free healthcare that this country has to offer. If you are a French citizen, you don't have the right to Canada's free healthcare. So, in the same way, yes, freedom of speech, freedom of expression, as a Canadian citizen or as a German citizen, you can enjoy the right to having freedom of expression as a citizen of that country. But when you're applying to that country, then obviously every country should be able to filter based on values. If you cannot filter based on values, because with the excuse that well this is thought policing and this is not freedom of expression, then you're basically every country is fucked. Every country is fucked if you cannot filter based on values. So freedom of expression is the responsibility a government has to its citizens, not to people of other countries. To people of other countries who are not your citizens, it's completely justifiable to filter based on values. What do you think about that? I have some comments against what I'm saying in the chat, and also somebody who responded to this when I tweeted this. By the way, follow me on Twitter, Armin Navabi. When I tweeted that we're gonna have this news, somebody responded by saying, I don't support this. Your opinion on becoming a citizen of a country should only be in that country. I don't want to become a citizen of the US if I must declare support for South Sudan's independence from genocidal North Sudan. So here's the thing. If you don't want to be a citizen because this country requires you to support a different country, well, that's your choice. That's exactly, you could then not become a German citizen. A country
No, but here's the
has the
difference.
right. Mm,
It's not
go on.
the okay, it's not that you have to support Israel. You have to let
Yes.
me be clear. You have to recognize their right to exist, which is a proxy for recognizing the importance and validity of the nation state, which is the antithesis of the Islamist project. Now, that being said, you can recognize their right to exist and not support that country that you agree has a right to exist. Do you know what I mean? But let me be clear. It's very obvious from the movement, the dialogue, the rhetoric, and also decades of history and what leaders have been saying that it is essentially the same to they view it as essentially the same as recognizing Israel's right to exist and supporting it. Did I make that
Yes.
distinction like clear? So they're
Wait,
technically
wait. Can
not one and the same, but people are treating it as
right.
if it is one and the same.
Yeah, but even I mean, I even if that's the case, I don't think this is even about Israel. I mean, I know Israel is. I think this is an excuse. So I know support for Israel is such a huge part of the DNA of Germany, right? It's part of their. I mean, these two countries are tied now. Okay, Germany after World War II, its support for Israel, it's a it's a fundamental part of being Germany. Okay, so these two countries are linked together; they're not separable, right? So if you're like, oh, why is this? Why is Germany tied to Israel in this way? Germany should be Germany, separate from Israel. Why should, if I want to be a German, why should I support Israel? Well, part of being Germany is support for Israel. Like every country gets to choose their identity and their values, and their values being supporting Israel's right to exist is their choice. Why do you want to take that choice away from them? But I also think, separate from Germany's aggressive support for Israel, um, separate from that, this is just a good filter for supporting Germany, because being anti-Israel is a key identifier of people who are going to be a problem for Germany. Right? So this is not supporting Israel. This is supporting Germany. Because if you are anti-Israel, then you're probably a type of person that we don't want here. Right?
Yeah, it's a
It's just an
proxy.
excuse to
It's a
filter.
proxy for
Yes,
other things. It totally is.
yes.
And they made it very clear with the interior minister literally like making it obvious that this is about Islamism when saying if you're Islamist stuck in the Stone Age, you don't need to be here. Like that's
Right.
you cannot make it more obvious that this is targeting a specific thing, a specific ideology. I mean, if that's their prerogative, then that's their prerogative. And it's so
So
interesting to see them like call it out in this way.
yeah, so is being pro LGBT, for example, right? So if we want to filter people who are anti-LGBT, we're talking about anti-LGBT rights, by the way, not like people who have turned LGBT rights movement into something else. Okay, we're not talking about the woke mob. Okay, we're talking
Don't
genuine
even get me started.
support for yeah, genuine support for equal rights for LGBT stuff, right? So that is not just support for LGBT. That's just that is filtering out Islamists. Okay, so that is basically support. That is beyond supporting LGBT. That is supporting Germany. This is basically not allowing in people who have barbaric, destructive ideas. And again, I know people could lie, but again, if you make the even if people could lie, if anybody has a history, any social media post, any advocacy, any activism in anything anti-LGBT or anti-Israel, if they have any record of them, and I think this is going to be done a lot easier now with AI, basically scraping everything about this person's identity on social media and face recognition in any event that they have ever participated in anywhere in the world, right? If they have been in an anti-Israel rally, if they have been posting, if they have even liked a single tweet or Facebook post somewhere anti-Israel or anti-LGBT, then your citizenship is automatically denied, right? So you can't lie about that. We have this on your record. This is the first step. What I'm saying is the future should be what comes next, right? And once you get your citizenship, if you have proven after that you actually have values, that you lied, so if if you're lying, you have to have a really clean record, clean history of not supporting these values. That you can't lie about. It's going to be online. So there are going to be less people that will be able to get in with lying. But even if you get in with lying, if you eventually prove to us that your values are still barbaric, then we will consider your citizenship application invalid and strip you away from your citizenship. Go on, Susanna.
Well, and Germany is serious about that kind of thing. Years ago, we covered a story where they revoked a dude's naturalization into citizenship because he refused to shake hands with the female officer. And the background is, Armin, this was literally, this dude goes through the entire naturalization process. He is at the naturalization citizenship ceremony. The person presenting his papers or awards, whatever, is there, and the official is there to give it to him and like finalize it. And that person
Hmm.
is a female officer or whatever who's there to shake his hand. He refused to shake her hand. This is literally the finish line. He
Oh my
refused to
god.
shake her hand, and they're like, "No, you don't. No, it's over. Done. Wrap it up. Wrap it up. Nope. Reject. Denied. No. Go." Like at the finish, like, and this was years ago.
Wow.
So yeah, I can see them following through on this, which is
Yeah,
interesting is
actually, that
because
should be one of the filters. Every single man that wants their citizenship, there will be a female officer giving them their citizenship, shaking your hand, and vice versa. Every single female, oh my God, this should be the case. Every single female that wants their citizenship, there will be a man. There will be a man giving you your citizenship, and they will be there to shake your hand and congratulate you on your citizenship. And you have to shake their hand. No shaking of hand, no citizenship. That's another filter. It
well,
should be
because
there.
yeah, and they said, "Oh, we're doing this because like we believe that men or women are equal." So you
Right.
gotta shake the hand. Now there's I
Yes.
know a fair amount, not a fair amount, but I know some Jewish women who refuse to shake like the hand of men. Um, that's
Yeah,
something
no
that
citizenship for them either.
that's
Okay.
it's never made sense to me, but I'm not a theist, so
It doesn't make sense to you because it doesn't make sense in general. Like, what are you looking for? It's religion.
well, exactly. That's that's my point. There's certain
In
things where
fact,
I'm
in
like,
fact, there should be a line of women. Okay, not one woman. There would be there would be 5 women, and you would be in line, and they all there to congratulate you for your citizenship, and you will shake every single one of their hand, and
mm,
there will be eye contact. And also for women, if there's a woman who's getting citizenship, there will be a line of men, and you have to shake every single one of their hand, and also eye contact. Okay, smiling. I want eye contact and smiling at the same. Okay.
I have the funniest mental image right now where it's just like, yes, shake the hand, do it. Um, oh, I feel like there was
Oh
something
yeah,
else I wanted
hugging.
to
We
add.
need no. Yes, we need. We are. People are very. Oh, y- uh, I heard Europeans do the kissy kissy when they're like greeting each other. Like they need to
Yes, and
be.
when I
Yes,
was in Spain, I messed that up. I messed that up many times because I'm not used to that.
right. Yes, that's actually a part of European culture that has gone away since COVID. We should bring that back for citizenship purposes.
I don't know. It's a little
Okay.
if you're not used to it,
Yeah,
I'm
no, no.
like, I was doing it and I'm like, do I touch the cheek and just kiss the air? Do I
I'm,
actually turn my head to actually kiss their cheek? Do and it seems like it's just the cheek touch and air kiss, and then you do it on both sides. I mean, it's a whole no one taught me this. There's no classes on it. Okay. Europeans, tell me what I'm supposed to do here. Okay. And then I'm like, do I kissing the actually turning my face to kiss their cheek feels a little bit much, like, I don't know them like that. I don't know, man. I'm too American for this. I was raised to give a firm handshake, okay? You look them in the eye
Yes.
and you give them a firm handshake.
Yeah, yeah. In North America, they judge you a lot based on your handshake. I was like not used to
The
that.
handshake is important. The handshake,
Yeah.
the how firm you are is important with the handshake.
Yes, yes. And how
Um,
dominating you are. Like how much like you're controlling the handshake versus the other person controlling the
oh
handshake.
yeah, it's a
I
big
was like,
thing, but you don't wanna, like,
it's big.
crunch the fingers because then that's too
Yes,
much.
yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
This is okay. Well, we're getting too off topic here. All right. Yes.
Susanna
Let
trying to
us
figure
know
out how
if
to
you
interact with Europeans.
did I
Uh,
make it clear how this is not a violation of people's free speech? Was that obvious? Like, do you agree with that? Like this whole citizenship test. I mean, every
no.
citizenship test. If this is, by the way, here's how I'll make it clear. If this is a violation of anyone's free speech, then every citizenship test is like it was a violation of your
Mhm.
free speech before, because you do a swear of like you do swear something like you do and your citizenship test you also promise to uphold the laws of your country. Is like, oh, what about the people who are against the laws of your country? Like, do I not to be against the laws of your country? What about my free speech? I'm like, no, it doesn't work like that. Free citizenship tests are already a limitation on your freedom of expression. They all already are. So this will not be more of that. It will. I mean, it's not going to add anything to that. If you don't want any thought policing on citizenship, then it will be a free for all. Then anybody could come in with any values that they want to have. But anyways,
Um, so let's go to the super chats and stuff because a lot of people sent super chats that are relevant to this segment. So Sid Dave
oh, okay.
sent a
We can
question
put it
saying,
up back up.
so they should not just recognize Israel. They should volunteer with Jewish LGBT nonprofits and get clearance from them. And all the immigrants should be exposed to blasphemy to confirm their acceptance of freedom of speech. So
Yes,
I don't. Well, apparently the new citizenship rules are going to include number of questions about Jewish life and Judaism in
no.
Germany.
I think Sid is not talking about what it's like now. I think Sid is saying what it should be eventually.
Yeah,
I think okay. I like this. Let's take it there.
yeah, it'll be
This would be
interesting.
make it harder to. Yes, yes, yes. In fact, make it something that um it will have economic benefit, because this is going to be expensive to do all of this. So if you want to be a
Mhm.
citizen, you have to volunteer. If you want to be a citizen, you have to volunteer first in a way that has financial benefit for the country, so it outdoes all this filtering cost.
Mhm.
But also the volunteering has to be something that is in line with the values of your country, and specifically targeting against Islamic values, pro-Jewish, pro-LGBT, pro-Israel stuff. Yeah.
And these
And you have to actually
organizations
put
have to be properly liberal and not post-liberal,
yes,
postmodernist, nihilist, wannabe Marxist.
right, right.
um Gasian is celebrating his membership for 30 months. Gasian, well, he's been a part of this community for way longer than that. Saying, I'm torn betwixt the global south and the US Supreme Court.
Mm.
I'll just
Don't
let
don't
that
try to
that
make
yeah, I'll
yeah,
let
just
that
let
wisdom
it. don't
open up
don't
to you
try to
over
make
time.
don't try to make sense of it. Just like
Just
that
let it
it
wash
is what
over
it
you.
is.
Just let it
Just
wash over
yes,
you.
exactly. Yes, yes.
UVB sent a super chat. Thank you, saying, how about hosting Peter Boghossian? And how about hosting a Cypriot about the Turkish occupation of northern Cyprus going on for 50 years? I would love to talk to Peter Boghossian. It probably wouldn't be too hard. I know a lot of people that know him. That'd be
Yeah,
amazing. In terms
once we get Atheist Republic to a point where Susanna can do more streams, then maybe she could bring guests and separate, have her own segments. Yeah, so guys, get Atheist Republic to a point where we could pay Susanna full time, and we will have more streams where she will bring in people and interview them. Okay.
um And in terms of a Cypriot, are there any specific, like, activists or thinkers that you think would be particularly good? You
Well,
can
I
give us a
mean,
suggestion.
I no, I don't know how would that be
Yeah, I don't know
relevant
if that
to our
would be
channel.
a good fit for us.
I mean, I'm against separatists, and I defend the border integrity of every country, not just Israel. That includes Cyprus border integrity. So unless they could come up to an understanding themselves. But yeah,
Um,
I'm usually against anybody who is a separatist.
Sid Dave is saying extremist Muslims will just pretend to recognize Israel to get citizenship. I'm not sure how this is a win. Extremist Muslims work within the leftist ecosystem. Okay,
I really
just a
explained
side
this.
note, what just a yeah, we already touched on this. Armin thinks that that's a step too far for most people. And you know what I was so funny I've been thinking about recently is how when I first joined Atheist Republic and I first got involved in this work, like I would hear people constantly being like, "Oh, the leftist Islamophiles, blah blah blah." And I was like, "What are you guys talking about?" It sounded like conspiracy nonsense, like seeing, like figures in the dark nonsense to me. And now once I've like been doing this long enough and then learned so much more history, I can't stop seeing it everywhere. And I'm like,
Right.
do I sound like one of those people now? Probably. Um,
But wait, can
Arjun.
I? I just quickly respond to that last comment. Okay,
Mhm.
again, this is just the beginning of normalizing value tests. Okay, the test needs to be a lot more extreme. But the fact that this is now normalized, because remember when I said it on this channel, people were like, "Oh my God, I mean that will never happen." So many of you said that, and now it happened. So now a lot of the other things that we want could eventually happen as the rise of Islam. By the way, this is not going to solve the problem of Europe's Islam problem, okay? Because even if there is no migration from Muslim countries, we already have enough Muslims in Europe, and they're going to have a ton of babies, and their population is going to grow. So we have that's why this is, but we have to do this. We have to stop immigration from Islamic countries, other than very, very rare cases. But that should happen. And these are steps in the right direction. But when it comes to addressing Islamism in Europe that already exists there we need to other solutions, and this channel offers those other solutions. So make sure that you're subscribed here because we discuss those here. We have to. This is not just a border security and migration limiting battle. This is not just a military battle like in Israel, but it's also an ideological battle. You cannot win this battle by just shouting deport them, deport them. They're not going to get deported. They're already citizens. This battle needs to be won on different fronts, and one of those fronts is the ideological front. So if you want to become more effective at fighting this ideological battle, then just subscribe to this channel because we equipped our soldiers here with the weapons they need to win this battle. But yes,
And this news story was one of your solutions that I thought was impossible. And look at where we are.
yes.
Um, so Arjun is saying not to take the devil's advocate here, but would Armin support it if Saudi makes it a rule that in order to become a citizen, they should not recognize Israel?
Obviously, I wouldn't support that, but obviously, um, e-
I think
just
he's
but
talking about the more general principle of a country that has policies that we might not like
I'm,
doing exactly the same thing, but
I'm
for
not
their own
supporting.
preference.
This is not based on principle. This is based on consequences. I'm a consequentialist. Okay, I'm not saying if this is okay, then like here's the thing. It's the question that you're asking is, well, we should have a standard here that the people that we allow in this restaurant should be, you know, not shouting or like having decent behavior before they come in. Like, oh, Armin, if you accept that standard, should we have it? If another restaurant says like you need a virgin sacrifice before you could eat here, would you allow that? Like, no, that's not good. Like, well, you have standards for people having coming into this restaurant, so why not have different standards? Well, those standards are different. Those standards are stupid. Those standards are wrong. Like, just because I accept the process of having certain standards or certain minimum values that you have to enter a country, that doesn't mean that I support having other values. Like, I don't understand how this even works, right? And like, hey, let's teach our children to be, respectful of other people, be polite to, their teachers or whatever. Like, oh, you're supporting teaching things to children. What if I want to teach my children to grow up to be murderers? Like, yeah, that's not good. Like, well, you already accepted the standard of teaching children things, so you should accept this as well. Well, one of them is good, the other one is bad, obviously. How is that even connected to each other? Yeah, this is a bad standard, I would not support it. What Israel is using as a filter is a good standard. Does that make sense, what I'm saying?
No, but I think he's making the general point of how would you feel about another country having a filter that you might
Yeah,
not
it's a
like?
bad filter.
It's
Yeah,
a
well, I
bad
don't
filter,
agree
but
with
it's
that.
within their right to have a filter if that's in line with their values. Now, it's we think that those are bad values, but it's within their right, within their interest as a nation to filter how they see
No, it's
fit.
actually not within their right. No, it's actually not within their right. Saudi Arabia is a signatory to the United Nations Human Rights Charter. They're signatory to that, so that's actually, they already have given up that right. So,
You
but
mean
actually, as
putting
a
the no,
as
I'm putting aside the actual example of not recognizing Israel as being the example. I'm talking about the broader point of a country is
yeah,
allowed to have a filter as they see fit.
no, they don't have the right to apply any kind of filter, right? Not, they don't have that right, because this is challenging. So, as a UN member, for, let's say, for example, the filter that Germany is putting does not contradict any of the agreements that Germany has signed with the United Nations as a UN member. This filter, for example, down here, is actually in contradiction with what Saudi
Oh,
Arabia
no,
is
you're
a
not
signatory
listening
to.
to me.
Yeah, your question is, does a country have the right to put any filter that they see fit? I'm
I'm not
answering.
saying
I'm answering specifically. Yeah, go on.
okay, let's not get stuck in the weeds. I was saying putting aside that specific example that he gave, which is in contradiction
Hmm.
with those things. In
Hmm.
general, outside of international treaties, you are allowed to have filters that you want. They might not align with our values, but if it aligns with the values of that state
Hmm.
and other international agreements that they've made, that's within their
Hmm.
right as a nation.
Okay, so there are limitations. Do you agree with that? On the
Yes,
values
and I
that they
just
want to put as,
acknowledged that.
filter.
Yeah.
Right, right, right. So, are you say their values? Their values is not the metric here. Our values, me and your value here, is the same values that every country of the UN is a signatory to, right? So the limitations that they have agreed to is the same limitations that we want them to have. So the limitations on what filters they could put, okay, is actually in line with liberal values. Do you understand what I'm saying? So they're not free to put whatever filters they want to have, they want to put under citizenship. They're actually quite their limitations is completely in line with the values that me and you advocate for, based on them agreeing to the United Nations Human Rights Charter, and also recognition of other countries' border integrity and the right to be a nation and all that. Right?
I see your
Does that
point
make
now.
sense?
I see your point now.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I understand. Um, okay, so let's go to oh my goodness, so many super chats. Sid gave another super chat saying, "Do you think a practicing Muslim can be a liberal, like support women, apostates, and LGBT religious minority? I really don't think it is possible. I think it's possible because I know many of them. I know many of them personally, in from all sorts of sides of the political spectrum. You know, lots of people have different ideas of what it means to be practicing or not practicing, or if you're really a Muslim or whatever, whatever. But these people say that they're believers and they also have these values. That doesn't mean that they support everything. Like I have Muslim friends who are like more classical liberal and they support like the individual rights of the LGBT community, but there's lots of behavior within the LGBT community that they dislike or don't approve of. And like we can have a discussion about that.
Okay. I'm gonna answer this, but I also need a clarification about before the comment. I said something wrong about my answer is wrong about what I said about in the previous super chat. But remember, practicing Muslim does not mean that the person has views that are completely in line with Islam. Many Muslims views and beliefs is not actually in line with Islamic teaching. Islam can never be liberal. Islam can never support women's rights. Islam cannot never support LGBT. Islam is always has been and always will be fundamentally against liberalism, women's rights, LGBT, free speech, all of that. Okay, Muslims, on the other hand, have correct views about Islamic views, and they have wrong Islamic teachings, and Muslims have wrong understanding of Islamic teachings. The Muslims who have the correct understanding of Islamic teaching, okay, they also, and they agree with them, they also can never be in support of women's rights. They can never be pro LGBT. They can never be pro liberalism. But there are many Muslims who are wrong about Islam, and the reason why they are wrong about Islam because they're more decent human beings, and they want to remain Muslim, right? So they have the wrong views about Islam, and sometimes it's emotional. They're emotional. It's not by logic. It's not by reasoning. Because they are decent human beings, because Islam is barbaric and anti-human, and these people are better than that. Most Muslims are better than Islam, right? And that way, they try to fool themselves about Islamic teaching so they could support these liberal values because they recognize them to be superior. But they have to fool themselves in convincing themselves that these liberal values are in line with Islam. And again, they are fooling themselves, but they are better people. Like when I say they're fooling themselves, I'm not trying to insult them. They are fooling themselves because it's hard for them to accept Islamic teachings are so barbaric and anti-human. So regarding the last question, the reason why I was wrong is it's actually Saudi Arabia is an exception. I just checked. Saudi Arabia is not a signatory to the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Saudi Arabia was the sole abstainer among Muslim majority countries when the Universal Declaration of Human Rights was adopted by the United Nations General Assembly in 1984. Saudi Arabia claimed that the UDHR, the United Declaration of Human Rights, violated Islamic law.
Well, because it
So I
does.
was wrong. Yeah. So they are
'Cause
actually not a signatory. So I was
well,
wrong about that.
well,
I'll take that back. I'll take all of that back.
I don't know. It's his point is like, I know Christians that say that it is not a contradiction in their faith to support LGBT and all that stuff. Personally, I don't get it. I don't believe it. But then again, I'm not a theist. I don't cherry pick within a religion what I think is how it actually works and how people got it wrong. It's again, theist cherry picking. Like, do you think it's possible? Is it intellectually consistent? No,
No.
but that's normal.
Yeah,
um,
I'd rather you be wrong, like irrational, than inhuman than a piece of shit, basically, right?
well,
So,
here's the thing.
like between the
Religious
most, yeah,
fundamentalists are more logically consistent, but
yes,
their
but they're evil.
conclusions are horrible. So I would
Yes, yes,
prefer
yes,
someone who's cherry
yes.
picking and not making any sense, but just they need something to still have the faith that maybe brings them comfort, but then treat other people in their community decently and with respect. Like it might not make sense, but that's not the end of the world. I'd rather the community relations be better. um
Yeah,
Next
but the
super.
problem is that Islam needs to be destroyed because imagine because even if there are many Muslims who ignore Islam and are and are decent human beings because they ignore Islam, the fact that they are supporting Islam, because the fact that they are there and call themselves Muslim and give legitimacy to Islam and spread Islam, basically they are the carriers of this virus, right? So they may not be expressing the symptoms, but they make Islam more dangerous because they are these good human beings that are carrying the virus, and they are not themselves being, you know, being harmful, but they are carrying the disease. Here's why they are actually a bigger problem than other ideologies. So imagine if we have two viruses. Some viruses, as soon as you catch it, you show the symptoms, and they're deadly, but you show them right away. But there's some other viruses that a lot of people actually don't show the symptoms. You carry it around, and only a few people show the symptoms. The second type of virus is actually more dangerous because you're not going to be able to tackle it right away because so many people are just carriers of the virus. And Islam is actually a more dangerous virus because of all these good Muslims, because there are so many people, so many good people who are carrying the virus without becoming jihadi or anti-LGBT or anti-Jewish. And you see them, you go like, okay, this is not a problem. This is a Muslim, this is a person who's a Muslim, who's a decent human being. But they make Islam more dangerous because the virus will remain longer. The virus will be more persistent. And eventually, because if you go to the scripture, what it actually teaches is these harmful and destructive ideas. The net cost of society will be a lot more because there's eventually, even if 5%, so the carriers, these good meaning Muslims, will make a much larger portion of the population to be Muslim, and the 5% of this larger population ends up being so much more harmful to society than 90% of a virus that was a lot more extreme and showing itself all the time, because that would be 90% of a much smaller population, which end up being a small cult that would just die right away. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um okay, we got a few more super chats to go through. So Erican gave another super chat talking about the Germany handshaking thing, saying unless they shake hands with nobody at all. But it's pretty customary, like at a ceremony to it's like a graduation. You know what I
Right.
mean? You have to walk the stage, get the diploma in one hand, shake at the same time. It's a whole coordinated effort here. Take the
And
photo.
no gloves. No gloves. I know, I can already see some people will be cheating. Okay, like I can see that if there's a citizenship test and there's a woman and there's a man and then they have to do this handshake, they're gonna wear gloves, so there's no skin to skin touch. And I'm like, I'm already seeing this before it happens. The rule should be no gloves allowed. We want the skin to skin contact. Skin to skin contact. This is already
What
also a
if that
part of.
person has really sweaty hands?
There would be, there is hand wipes, okay, right next to, there's sanitizers and
Yeah.
hand wipes and everything right next to you. Okay, there's wet baby wipes and dry tissues, and also different types of sanitizers. Okay, like with different ingredients. Halal, no, not halal. Haram's hand sanitizer. It's actually written on the hand sanitizer that this is made with haram ingredients. Okay, but yeah, go on.
Oh my god. Erican gave another super chat
There
saying
would be there would be bacon, and you have to participate. How about there would be a dinner before, there would be a celebratory lunch before we give you your citizenship, and we will eat together, and everything is made out of pork. But go on.
I mean, people have a lot of dietary restrictions that would outside of any ideology that make them not eligible for that.
Too bad.
Erican
No citizen. Too bad. No citizenship for you. This is actually good. We will also get rid of the vegans. we will. We would also. This is double win. This is a double win. We would also filter out the vegans. Amazing. Save the country.
you're fuck your cholesterol. You're eating the bratwurst. Okay. Um,
All right.
Erican is saying that also make a lot of introverts ineligible.
It's
Well,
okay. It's worth. Yeah, we
If
it's okay. We
how
we
bad do you
have
want
to
that
sacrifice
citizenship? You
somehow to
can get
save this
over it.
country.
You can get over it. Sid Dave gave a super chat saying 15 plus years ago, I used to be anti-gay and thought they were crazy. But then I learned that my
When I
doctor, who was so nice and kind to me, was gay, and I realized I was wrong. I changed my worldview. And this is how our
oh,
brains
that's good.
work. There are so many studies on this, is that we do not feel affinity or care as much about the defense of things that we are not familiar with. So you have to kind of know someone from these communities, and it will change your mind slowly but surely over time. Um, because you have to be familiar with it, and then over time you will see that the beliefs that you had are not matching with your reality, and eventually the weight of the evidence of your reality will be so much that it'll probably cause the false belief to crumble. um Angry Keyboard Warrior gave a super chat saying, maybe one way to know Russia and Hamas are the bad guys is that they have special symbols to glorify their violent actions, like the Z and the inverted triangle. Well, Ukraine and Israel don't have such symbols. What do you think?
Maybe one
I
way
mean,
to know
Ukraine has their
Russia.
trident, which I don't know the history of that, but it's certainly been popularized since the war.
Yeah, I don't think we need to come up
I don't
with
think that's
such.
the litmus test.
Yeah, I mean, what if tomorrow we came up with a symbol to identify liberal people with liberal values? I don't think that's a good test. I think we already have. I think we could. How about just evaluating what they stand for? I think
Yeah,
that's
yeah, yeah.
already a good
Here
way.
here's an easy test. Believe people when they tell you what they say.
Yes, yes, yes.
Because here's like a thing that I've noticed with a lot of these like kids and leftists or whatever, is they don't actually give these people the respect of like listening to them when they say things. It's like, oh no, well, they say that they're gonna keep on doing like October 7th over and over and over again as long as it takes, but like, well, they don't really mean that. Blah, 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 blah. It's like, no, these people mean what they
Yeah.
say. And give them the respect of
By the way,
listening to.
can I say I was joking? So atheists came in and like, well, as a vegetarian, not sure what to make of this. Okay, I'm joking. Okay, the vegans and vegetarians here. Okay, I'm not anti-vegan. I'm not a vegan, but I'm not anti-vegan. I mean, I am. Veganism is not good for you. Vegetarianism is fine. But again, I'm not here to start a war between the myself and vegans. I mean, I am, but not today. Go ahead.
I woke up and chose violence, but not for this today. Okay. Erican gave another super chat saying, I know it looks like an occupation to outsiders, but the on the ground situation is more like a peaceful border dispute. And northern Cyprus itself also benefits due to being a tax haven. Oh, speaking about the Turkey. Well, you would
Well,
say
when I
that.
went to Cyprus as a
Given-
child, it's a situation. When I went to Cyprus when I was a child, the situation seemed a lot tense. Okay, the situation seemed like you guys like when I went to the border, I went from the Greek side to the border, and there were pictures of dead people. Promises of revenge and stuff like that. I don't know what the hell that was because I was a child. I didn't understand what this whole violent imagery is. But this maybe since then things has de-escalated. But I don't know. That's my memory of what was happening there. Anyways, but thank you.
Well, the super chat coming in Turkish lira, you might be a little
Right.
biased.
Yes, you're right. Actually, that's a good point.
um Darko gave celebrating his membership for 27 months. This engaged American still confuses every time. We are just waiting to
Yes.
catch up to his esoteric wisdom. Okay, we shall wait and just hope that one day
Have
we
you? I
can
have
gain
given up.
insight.
I just read the super chats and let it mean whatever it means. I don't know why you're still trying, but okay.
Sid Dave gave another super chat saying asylum system has been abused in the West. I have seen Shias, Ahmadi Muslims getting asylum in the West, citing persecution from Sunnis. Imagine that. Khalistanis exploit it, feigning persecution. Okay, well, let's be clear. Shias and Ahmadis do face persecution from Sunnis. Like, that's not
Yeah.
made up. That's a real thing. Like, that is a
Yes.
real thing.
but I am okay with not accepting any of them, even if it is real, um, because I'm sorry, but we need to save our country. Like if I cannot identify that you're not going to be a problem for my country, even if you need asylum, I'm sorry, but again, I always give this example. Like when the plane is going down, they'll like, or if there's a problem in the plane, they always tell you to put the mask on yourself before you take care of anyone else, right? So a country, even if you think some people deserve protection, a country cannot be a source of security and protection for people in need if the country is declining, if the country is not strong enough, right? So I am for the extreme position that if you're from any of these communities, any of these Muslim communities, or any of these other communities that have a record of supporting terrorism, like the Khalistanis, for example, then no immigration from your community. Okay, even if there are some cases there in there that is going to be well deserving of security and safety, and we are going to, because again, remember, when you accept refugees from a country, like let's say for example, if you're accepting 10,000 refugees, for example, in general of all countries, if you deny some one deserving person because of your filtering process, it's not like you're not going to fill the 10,000 anyways. You're going to filter, you're going to give it to somebody else who's in need. So in net, you're also going to protect the people. Like if I say like, okay, no refugees from Muslim countries, done, we're done taking refugees from Muslim countries, even if somebody there deserve it. Well, you're still going to take the same number as before, so you're going to give it to somebody else who deserves it anyways. So the net effect of being helpful is going to end up being the same. But the benefit of this is that you save your country from harmful beliefs. Anyways,
You gave us follow-up super chat saying, imagine having to get asylum from non-Muslims because your fellow Muslims are persecuting you. It's not our job to protect you from your religious problems. Basically, like all people being persecuted on the basis of their belief could be boiled down to this though. Which you could use that same accusation and attitude against ex-Muslims. It's not our problem to help you with your religious problems. It's like, no, there is that way of thinking could be thrown against anyone. Like that's I don't think that that's a good enough
yeah,
um
yeah. No,
line of
that's
thinking.
the argument I would make. Not is so. Here's the thing: the whole point of liberalism is not to just is to
This is also highly
is to
tribalistic.
yes, yes, yes. I think my argument is better. I don't like to think about it. It's not our problem because the whole point of liberalism is to become strong enough to protect the people who need help. But the way I would say it is for you to be effective enough to protect the people who you need help, you need to worry about your strength. If you're letting in people in that is going to challenge your strength, then you're not going to be helpful to anybody. You need to be a strong country. If you open your door to Islamists that will challenge the way that you do things, then you're not going to be a help to your citizens or anyone else. That's the way I like to frame it instead, because it's good to be, it should be a goal to be a country that can afford to help, people around the world. But yeah,
Um
anyways.
okay, so Cajun American gave a super chat saying, what should we call the pseudo Islam of liberal Muslims? I don't know.
They don't
Do we have a different name for Christians that are LGBT welcoming or for women's reproductive rights or whatever? It's like, no, we don't really have a
we
different
don't
name
have to
for
name it
that.
anything. We
We're
just
like,
tell them these are liberal values that you got from other places. We name it liberalism. We're like, hey, this the source of what you're saying is not Islam. Okay,
and a lot of
everything you're
people
saying.
recognize that.
Yes, yes. Just label it what the label that it already has. These are liberal Enlightenment values that were popularized in Western Europe, in the 18th and 19th century, starting from, yeah, and spread all around the world. Just that's what they are.
I can
That's what you're
imagine that
repeating.
there's also a fair amount of people that, like, see these values and like them more, but then also don't wanna full-blown be ex-Muslim because of the personal cost to themselves. Does that mean that we should, like, completely deny the fact that they share these values just because maybe there are actual really good incentives within their environment to not completely apostatize? Like, that doesn't seem like that has a good
Mm.
utility. We have to
So there's
consider
three
that.
ways. Yes, so there's three parts. There's three things. Two of them we don't have to deny. The third we have to deny. Okay, we don't have to deny that they're Muslim. They are still Muslim, even if they have a wrong view about Islam. We don't deny that they're Muslim. We don't deny that they have these liberal views. If they say I'm a Muslim and I have these liberal views, we believe them. We don't deny that. The only thing that we deny is the third one, that what they believe in is Islam. So we accept that they're Muslim, we accept that they have these views, these liberal views, but when they say that these views are Islamic views, that third part, that's the part that we deny. But with the first two, we give them that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yes.
Um, and Erican was saying postmodernist non-denominational Islamicism. Is that supposed to be the name for the people that are
Oh yeah,
pseudo
he's
Islam?
answering engaged. He's answering Asian American. Yes.
No, but then if they are pseudo Islamic liberals, then they're not going to be
Oh,
postmodernist or
yes, that's not liberal.
Islamicist. That's it. That's
Yes,
the
yes, yes.
opposite.
Yeah, this is the opposite of liberalism. Yes.
Um, Sid is just saying Germany's last vegan leader was not a good man. Oh, you're right.
Oh.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah, actually, see, this is why Germany has
That's
a
a deep
history
cut.
with
Whoa.
anti. Germany has a history with anti-Semites and vegans in the same person, so they should filter out. So give them pork. Give them that eating pork should be a condition.
Coincidence? I think not. I'm kidding. Um, uh,
Oh, how did that? That's
Arjun is
amazing.
saying, "Do you think it was easier to be a moderate Muslim in pre-modern times due to general illiteracy of Islamic teachings, or is it easier today ex Akbar?" I'm not sure what ex Akbar means. Um, but
Depends on the
I
time.
I think based on my understanding and also speaking to many people from generations older than me from Muslim backgrounds, I think things were maybe a little bit easier before the Muslim Brotherhood.
It was up and down. Like for example, how far do you want to go back? It
Yeah.
was completely like if you actually look, for example, if you go back to some periods during the Abbasid dynasty, it was so easy to come out and say like, yeah, the Quran is a crap book under the Islamic Caliphate, and you will still live, and you will actually had people paying you patronage and stuff. So again, it's not like, oh, the more backwards you go, the more extreme they were. Like it is up and down. Like so during Ibn Sina's time, it was like easier, and then Ibn Taymiyyah came, and everything went to crap, and then everything also,
That'll
it,
do
it
it.
was up and down. Yes. Yeah,
That'll do it.
yeah, yeah.
Um, Asian American gave a super chat saying everyone wears a QR code of their beliefs. How easy
No,
is that
that's
to update?
no, no, no. We can't do that. That's like becoming too
Yeah.
dystopian.
Well, no, because Asian American always likes to toe the line with thought
Ninety.
experiments about how authoritarian and
Yes.
dystopian we want to be. Asian American,
I agree.
excuse me, Kenny, our lovely volunteer Kenny, gifted 5 Atheist Republic memberships. So, guys, if you want to get an Atheist Republic membership for free, you can like go in your settings and change things so that you can be gifted a membership. If you're a member, make sure to use the emojis. GJ, hi GJ, gave a super chat saying, I think I get what Armin just said. Most people are unfamiliar with Islamic doctrines, erroneously conclude from years and decades of peaceful behavior of Muslims and Islam that they have a peaceful ideology. I agree. I completely agree. Um,
Mm.
yes. Um, Armin, do you need a potty break?
Yes, but let's read the super chats. I will bring up the next news because I'm afraid if I go now, I'm not going to have the next news. So let's
I
go
know,
through
but
the
I
super
wanna see
chats. I
your
will bring up the.
reaction when I'm reading this summary.
Oh shit. Okay, okay. So I'll be right back.
It's
Okay.
so good. I'll read a few, other super chats. Okay, so Yusuf Dumphy gave another super chat saying, "What about accepting Uyghurs who are fleeing?" Look it, I don't know. I am not as hardline as Armin on these issues, and I think that there are millions of people who are experiencing severe persecution for their Islamic beliefs. Now, and they need to have protection everywhere. But like I said, I've said it before and I'll say it again. It is a human right to be able to seek asylum. It is a privilege to be granted asylum. And every country has their own prerogative in vetting and verifying these cases and then further deciding whether they should be naturalized as citizens or not. Um And I know people are probably gonna be like, "Oh, who's this girl, this emotional woman who doesn't agree with Armin that all of no 0 Muslim immigration, and oh my god, what a stupid girl, blah, blah, blah," because then all these
Well,
new people
how did you?
totally
How
trash.
was it even a disagreement? How wasn't that wasn't even a disagreement? But you said getting the asylum is a privilege, so you have a right to filing for an asylum, but you don't have a right to being accepted. So that is completely in line with what I'm saying. When you say it's a privilege, means it's not a right.
Yeah, no, but you've
So
said,
how is
like,
that?
0, like, we should bring the number down to 0.
First of all, not actual zero. I will clarify. But even if it's completely zero, that means you still file the asylum, and then you would not be granted the asylum. We're not going to stop you from filing it. So again, like you said, you have the right to file to seek asylum, but we won't give it to you because that's not a right, that's a privilege. But also, it's not when I said zero, I'm talking about, and I always clarified, unless very rare circumstances, like people who are being hunted down by Muslims, like ex-Muslims, Christians,
No, but the
Jews,
Uyghurs are believing
LGBT.
Muslims, and they're being persecuted because of their Muslim
Yes,
background. That's a
yes,
well-established fact.
yes, very rare cases that could be
Does that fit within
identified
those
that
rare
this.
cases?
Yes, if you could be certain, like if you bring the numbers down from these hundreds of thousands to like rare cases where people are being hunted down, then you are going to have the resources, because this is bringing all these people and checking is very expensive. But if you bring the numbers down from hundreds of thousands to like hundreds, then each individual case could be studied, because now you're going to have a lot more money and resources to know that this individual is not going to be a threat to your country and to your values and to your way of life. You could study these individuals very, very closely and accurately and know that this is a safe person to bring into your country. So I'm talking what relative to what the numbers are right now, is near zero numbers. It's not zero, because if you find a person that is being hunted down by Islamists, then yeah, that person, if they don't have their views that is going to be a detriment to your country, then sure, that's a case that could get an asylum. But these are numbers. But I'm talking about numbers that is not going to even be change the demographic. Like it's not even going to be noticed when it comes to the demographic of your country. Like all of if you add all of these cases that you're talking about combined, like all the people that are being specifically hunted down, like we have evidence of records of this person being hunted down, these rare cases, if you add them together, even if you accept all of them, it's such a tiny number that it's not even going to be noticed. This is completely different from this mass migration that we're seeing coming from Islamic countries to Europe.
Yeah, sure. Well, long story short, I'm like, yes, Uyghurs should be able to come seek asylum and be accepted for asylum if they're deemed to be a good fit.
Yeah, but you have to be able to show that they are going to be a good fit. It shouldn't be like, okay, well, I couldn't have proved. They should be able to prove that they are going to be good fit. It's not you that should be proving that they're not going to be a danger. The standard has to be beyond you're not going to be a danger. The standard has to be, show me that you are actually going to be beneficial to my country. Show me that you are going to be in line with what these countries, your values and views is going to be in line with what this country operates on, the methodologies, the standards, the ideals, the views that we have. You have to be able to show that. I'm sorry, but if you can't, then we cannot risk the stability of our country for the sake of others.
Man, the standards of some people in the live chat are so fucking stupid. It's crazy. Oh my god. Sid Dave gave a super chat saying ex-Muslims, religious minorities are different. They deserve asylum. Should an Iranian Sunni or a Saudi Shia get asylum in the West?
So
This is
it
not that
again
crazy. If
depends.
they have a solid case of persecution, they have the right to be able to seek asylum.
I would say a solid case of persecution, but also proof that their views are not going to be a cost to our country. Like, what do you think about a Sunni that is being hunted down, but that Sunni himself believes that, I don't know, is anti-LGBT views and think Israel should be destroyed? I think even that Sunni, that specific Sunni, I'm sorry that you're being hunted down, but we're not going to bring you in. If you have views like, oh, Israel does not have the right to exist, if you have anti-LGBT views, if you have anti-female views, even if you're being hunted down, we're not going to open the door. So it's not, I think that should be added.
GJ gave another super chat saying a Netherlands Good Cause Foundation is showering YouTube with ads that the Netherlands should take in more migrant, but the Netherlands now has a government including Wilders in it because Dutch integration is lagging behind Dutch immigration. Yeah, and this has been a problem happening in the Netherlands for a long time now, since Ion Hersey Ali was in the parliament. Um Arjun gave a super chat, thank you, saying Indian Modi government fast-tracked citizen for Hindu refugees in 2019 in the CAA bill, and global organizations ostracized India for it. Thoughts? Armin was originally against the CAA. I changed my mind. I thought it made a lot of sense.
Mm.
And you were last time I remember talking about it, I remember you being a little bit of a stickler on the secular related issue of it. And I said
Mm.
that it's not crazy because there, for example, in my country, there are precedents for where the Jewish refugees from the Soviet Union were fast tracked through the refugee system because the government was
Right,
saying
right,
the case of persecution is so well documented that we can just fast track this and we don't need every
right.
individual to prove a case of persecution because it's so well established and understood. And for those who are not familiar, India was doing something similar for people who were refugees inside India before 2014, if I remember correctly, for people who were from basically every faith except Muslims from countries like Afghanistan, Pakistan, I think probably Bangladesh as well, kind of every country of those bordering India. And I said, I actually support that program. I got no problem with that program. I changed
So
my
if
mind
I
on
want to be,
CAA.
yeah, I think I should too, because correct me if I'm wrong about this, if I want to be consistent with supporting Israel, allowing people to become citizens of Israel because they're Jewish,
That's different
right?
than refugee seeking asylum.
Yeah, I know, but that is even more aggressive, right? You're like, not only you're going beyond accepting them as asylum, you're like, you're automatically a citizen because you're Jewish, because of the recognition that you are threatened in many places around the world. So if we accept that standard, for somebody could say, well, there is a lot more anti-Jewish hatred around the world than there is Hindu hatred around the world. And I was like, okay, well, yes, but that would justify why Israel will give you automatic citizenship, and India is not talking about automatic citizenship. India is talking about, asylum seeking. But if you
Well, and then
accept that
also it's
standard
an
with Israel,
accelerated path to citizenship, if I remember correctly.
right, right, but it's not like like as automatic as Israel. Like, so, but yeah, if you want to accept that standard for Israel, then you should accept that standard for India as well, so, to be consistent, I guess, right?
Yeah. I still don't know how I feel about the NRC. That's something I still like need to learn more about, but I feel like it was the combination of those two that really made such a bad image for India. But the CAA really should, I don't know. When I learned more about it, I changed my mind and I was like, this should be a non-starter. Someone gave a super chat, and I believe this might be in, I'm not sure what language this is. This looks like mm, I don't know. It
This
doesn't look like
is
Hindi. It looks
South
like something
African,
else. Yeah, 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 but the actual name.
Chinese.
Anyways, I'm trying to test my knowledge of what alphabet this is. But anyways, um saying Uyghurs aren't persecuted, only the Islamists are persecuted, and that too started after a terrorist attack in China. China is not foolish like Europe. Following the desert cult destroys a society, China won't allow it. Okay, whether or not you like Islam or the fact that there was Islamist terrorism in Xinjiang, I personally feel like I have seen enough evidence to support the fact that there is legitimate, widespread persecution amounting to genocide against the weaker people.
Yeah.
It's
So yeah,
Bengali.
guys.
My suspicion was right, but I didn't say it. Oh God, sorry. Um.
So
Anyways, my
China
point.
is actually doing the best thing to do to actually increase radicalism and Islamic terrorism in your country, right? And China is actually not closing its borders from Islamic radicals. These are people within China, and China is not fighting Islam. China is fighting Muslim, which is the best way to promote Islam, by the way. So China is actually not doing it right. China is doing everything wrong, actually, when it comes to what's the best solution.
It's been super weird to see like some weird activists that I follow be super hardcore like supporting the Palestinian cause when there's a ton of people in the Hamas supporting camp that deny the Uyghur genocide. I'm like, "Oh, that's awkward." Um and the reason why they do it is because they just hate anything they support anything that's anti-American, and it's really that simple. Anyways, GJ gave another super chat saying European Union countries have already begun in moving in Armin's direction. Aspiring migrants to the EU via North Africa now first have to take and pass language and citizenship courses before coming over. For which
Yeah.
specific countries, though? I'm so curious about how they implement this. Are they running these in like Morocco or something? I don't know. Um,
Yeah, so here's a good thing about the my issue with what people call the far right parties is that what's good about them is that they have the correct policies about immigration, but they have the wrong policies, unfortunately, about almost everything else.
and
Like they're
integration,
protectionist. Yes.
immigration and integration.
Integration, yes, yes. These so-called, again, I don't call them far right because I don't see anything in their views that is far right. They're just right leaning. When it comes to immigration and integration, everything they're saying is accurate. But when it comes to economic plans and everything like foreign policy, a lot of them have really bad ideas, and that's why they come to power and they stay there for a short term, and then they lose because people see that there's no their solution is not working for everything else. Well, their solutions works for immigration stuff, but not for anything else. But what I'm hoping is that the more these right-leaning parties become normalized, the so-called centrist parties, in order to not lose so many votes to them, adopt, like, take their immigration views, and their immigration views become normalized within more within leftist and centrist parties because they see them as such a challenge to them. So I like the fact that they're coming in and normalizing this immigration policy. That's the benefit from having them
Well, and it'd be
in
super
Europe.
interesting to see what happens in Germany because that whole thing kind of backfired on Macron. but now it looks like Olaf Scholz is kind of reacting to the results of the EU elections. And then also, I think there might be I can't quite remember. I think there's new elections happening in Germany soon, and he's trying to adjust.
Do you know who makes the most amazing, gorgeous, and other adjectives that I can't use here on YouTube, blasphemous art ever? We do! And for some reason, we are giving it away for free. Download them now using the link in the description before we change our mind.